the next generation of storytellers. This is the Armed with the Camera Fellowship. I'm going to invite each artist to introduce themselves, name your project, and the description of your project. Welcome to the press conference. We'll start here.
Hi, I'm Kayli Kimura Weiss, and the name of my film is Sansedai, and it follows my 92-year-old grandmother, Yasuko Kimura's journey from Japan to the US through war, moving to a country that was once deemed an enemy, and what it's like to live to be almost 100 years old.
Hi y'all, my name is Hello. Hi y'all, my name is Zaynah Waseem. My film is From Karachi with Love. It's about, basically, I'm documenting my parents returning to Karachi, their hometown, and it's kind of like an exploration of what we remember and what's there once when we used to live there. So it's just kind of like recollection memories.
Hey everybody, my name is Bryson Nihipali. My film is Kayla. It's a documentary about my family and their journey from Hawaii to Los Angeles. My grandmother moved from Hawaii in 1963 and raised our family in Carson, California. So it's basically just conversations that I've had with some of my family members from different generations and asking them about where we come from and who we come from.
Hi, my name is Paula Kiley. My film is Balik Bayan, and it follows the story of Manny Paez, a Balik Bayan box owner in Eagle Rock, and his journey immigrating to the United States, and how the items in Balik Bayan boxes informed his idea of America and how it influenced his decision to come.
What's up, everybody? My name is Alfred Bordallo, and my film was Daughter of Guam. And Daughter of Guam is a 4.5-minute sort of visual essay or like video art piece, just talking about Guam and her collective loss and our collective responsibility as Chamorro people. I also did a video art installation called Digital Camouflage, which explores similar topics, just about how Chamorro media has existed within and resisted imperialism at large. So it's an installation and it's at Artcore.
And it's on view how long?
Until Sunday.
And then Zaynah, yours?
Also Sunday.
Also Sunday. So folks, if you aren't familiar, that Artcore venue is just around the corner on Judge ISO. It's also, some people have been calling like East-West Players. I'm happy to open it up to the floor for any questions. Otherwise, I could also prompt questions to drive the conversation. We have a question in the back in the orange shirt. Peterson?
The challenges for you guys, especially
Can you send the mic back? Thank you.
what were the challenges for you guys, especially knowing that you want to make sure that you cover every base of your story that you're trying to tell?
Before you could marinate in that, if you could ask again, just introduce yourself from which outlet?
All right, Peter Gonzaga with Front Row Features, Pacific Rim Video, and GMA Pinoy TV.
Thank you. So what were the challenges?
I think some challenges for me were trying to capture the essence of the story in a short film. I captured over like 15 hours of footage just talking to my grandmother and going through my family's archival footage, and to narrow that down was really difficult and in such a short time frame of this fellowship as well. But I think it was tough, but it was also so beautiful to just hone in on the story, and it's such a blessing to go through all that footage, but I'm looking forward to hopefully making a longer form film of that as well.
Yeah, similar to Kaylee, just editing all of that footage. I think I had over 10 hours of footage, and having difficult conversations with my family. Sometimes, like, it's difficult to talk to your elders sometimes, because the dynamic is really, like, there's a hierarchy when talking to them, and there's expectations when, like, some things you're not meant to ask, but I feel like just giving myself permission to ask certain questions and also figuring out what I'm comfortable sharing, because my family was really vulnerable with me, and it's there's like a big responsibility in like carrying their stories forward. So yeah.
I think similar to everyone here, there's so much you want to tackle for the story with the film. Like with the Bayan boxes, there's so many directions I wanted to go. I wanted to follow a box all the way from the US to the Philippines, but just knowing like the time constraints of it all. I had actually interviewed several other folks who work at Manila Forwarders, which is the Balik Bayan box company that I featured in the film. And I ended up just going with Manny's story. And it took a lot of conversations with the fellows, with our mentors, kind of realizing like what we're capable of doing in such a short time frame. Like my film is 7 minutes. And I think I realized through getting to know Manny, the participant in my film, that his story resonates with so many others, and that his story doesn't have to represent the entire experience of like Filipinos and Filipino American diaspora, and that like you're allowed to just have your story and people can resonate with it, or they can make their own connections, and that was like a huge lesson and challenge, I think, through it all.
I would say that my biggest challenge specifically with digital camouflage was curating all the archival media that I had to remix for the project. And the Chamorro community is very small, and I have to do that with a lot of respect because people's ancestors are still within these pieces of media, and there's like, I hate to call it politics, but just like, or I should say relationships between people that were depicted in the installation, and so just kind of navigating that to have a lot of respect for everybody who was featured while also offering valid and proper critique for others who were featured as well. So that was probably my biggest challenge with digital camouflage.
I think for me, I guess, because I also have an exhibition, I think the most challenging aspect was going through the archives. BC has like an amazing selection of archives, and so, you know, really doing justice to each community and like finding photographs that really resonates with each community, from South Asian to Filipino American to Chinese American. So I think, you know, giving grace and time to that process is often quite challenging, but really inspiring, I think, the whole process. So.
I have the mic right. Hello.
Okay.
Okay. Gabe Powder with LRM Online. As audiences have a chance to watch your film, what is the one most important take that you hope they walk away with?
I think I said this last night, but usually in Asian American communities, we tend to self-isolate, and so if we're like South Asian Americans, like we tend to not really cross over to other, you know, regions in Asia or like other Asian American communities, and so I think from my exhibition, I hope that people can walk away feeling inspired to connect with others in the Asian diaspora, people that don't belong, you know, or have the same ethnicity or race as them, and I think just sort of really find joy in that intercultural experience that we have between each other and share with each other. I hope people can walk away with that.
I would say for Daughter of Guam, the main thing is love your older sister more and support her more. So for digital camouflage, on the other hand, I think what I want people to take away is that indigenous people have survived through multiple empires at this point, and we're always going to exist. It's just the way we adapt to the times and exist within whatever empire it is right now. Like, long-term perspective, we'll still be here.
I think for my film, I hope people, the one takeaway I hope people take from it is to talk to your elders and talk to your family and ask them their stories and get to know them better. I think sometimes it's hard for your parents or your grandparents to be vulnerable with you and share share stories with you, and so I encourage others to ask their grandparents, ask their family who's still around what their stories are and where they come from.
Yeah, I think for me with Balik Bayan, I was just really curious and inspired by the things that we say through the things that we don't say, right? Like I think there's a lot that we communicate through the items in a box, and I just wanted the film to kind of urge folks to kind of think about what we say to our relatives abroad through the items that we put in these boxes. What kinds of stories do we tell? What kinds of myths do we perpetuate about the American dream through these goods that we exchange back and forth? And in what ways do these items, I guess, fail to take place of a mother or a father or a brother who had to leave their homeland to provide for their families? So I think it's such a common practice among Filipino Americans, and I'm just really, I hope people take some time to really think about what we gain from the practice, what we lose, and maybe is it worth it?
Yeah, so reiterating what you said, basically talk with your family, make time, because you never like share when's the last time you're gonna be able to talk with them, and that's valuable time. That's like your story that you're like gonna end up learning. So like through talking with them, through asking them hard questions, through having hard conversations, it's only gonna benefit you in the end.
Well, my name is MJ from Blog Talk with MJ Ricardo on Net25. I congratulate everybody because you guys are super young and very brave to tell this story. And first of all, what have you learned in your journey? One lesson that you can share us making your story.
Okay, so for Daughter of Guam, I was working on the installation for most of the fellowship, but ultimately I wanted something to screen, and the anxiety was like eating at me for a sec, like am I gonna do it or am I just gonna like just do the installation? But I felt like I had an idea and I really wanted to put it out there, and it took some inner working to like reach out to my community for help. And so the main thing I learned is that if you just like reach out to your community, you never know how many people like love and support you and want to like help you make something happen. And so that's how I felt when I made Daughter of Guam, and basically turned it around within like a week to 10 days. And none of it would have been possible without the support of the Chamorro community in LA County at large, and especially in Long Beach. So I learned that I have a lot of good people in my life.
Yeah, I actually really want to piggyback off of what you said, Al. I shared this a little bit last night too, but kind of entering the fellowship, I was coming in from like a period of burnout. And I think throughout this process, learning to lean on community members, to lean on friends, lean on family, to make this film, I think I've always felt very secure in my like Filipino identity. But when it came to like making a film about Filipinos and Filipino Americans, I started kind of getting in my head about it, like what are the aunties gonna think, what are the uncles gonna think, and I think it takes a lot of support from the fellows, the mentors, other members of the community who aren't in film, to just remind you that like just you being Filipino is enough, and that your lens is, you have a unique lens, and it doesn't have to cover the entire experience of a whole group of people and a whole diaspora. And I think that was like a huge learning experience for me as a person and as an artist, and how I want to continue kind of operating in the film and media world. So, yeah.
I think for me would be to find beauty in like the everyday and the mundane moments of life, because my film honestly was kind of a surprise to me as well, because I shot footage in Karachi when I was visiting my grandparents and my family, and I was just kind of in the car, and my parents were like, you know, kind of reminiscing of their past, and I just kind of pulled out my camera and started shooting footage of them, you know, like looking at Karachi and like kind of going through the streets again after a while. And so I think sort of like the most perfect and most beautiful moments really come out of the mundane moments in life. And so also just not to be afraid of pursuing those moments where you can create art. I don't think it always has to be perfect. You can really sort of lean on into the everyday of life to produce something new and transformative.
I think a big lesson for me in making this film was not being afraid to ask for help. I'm someone who's always been like a one-woman band doing everything from start to finish by myself, and this has been a really eye-opening experience, having an incredible cohort to lean on, incredible support team at VC, and the mentors. I've never really had a mentor like this, so they've been so incredible throughout the whole process, and I had an amazing team to help bring this film to life, from the score to the sound to the camera operating. It's just incredible to actually work with the team and realize that can just only improve the film.
Yeah, this is actually my first film, and I learned that making films is hard. And yeah, definitely like leaned on my cohort, definitely leaned on my family so much. It takes so many people to make a film, so I'm really grateful that I have so much support. And I guess like another thing I would say is, what was I gonna say? Something that I like. Okay. Yeah, my roots run deep. Just like understanding how deep my roots run and like how like clandestine all of this happens. Yeah, like my auntie Kella, who's in the film, she like does a chant. Like after I interviewed her, she was like, yeah, like I have a feeling that like this is like what you're meant to do. You're meant to carry on our family story. So just like accepting your role in your family and also just like in the world, the responsibility you have.
Hi. Hi, Ben Severio from Tom's Guide at BC. So Paula mentioned the American dream, and that's a common theme in the immigrant experience. So I was wondering, what does American dream mean to you now, especially after working on these projects, and what role does film take in defining it?
I could start. I brought it up. I put us here. I think for me, I feel like it's constantly being redefined. I think as I get older, I question more and more about its validity. But I think through the film, I don't think I ever tried to define what it is in the film, but more so prompt viewers and prompt Manny even to question what it means for them. And I think it's different for each person. I think I hold a level of privilege by existing here, by being born into this country, but also knowing that just by being here, I'm complicit in so many horrible things happening around the world. So it's complicated. It's something I'm always redefining and exploring, and I think you can ask me tomorrow, you can ask me in 20 minutes, I might have a different answer, but yeah, I think and I think that's what can be so like icky about it too.
Okay, so I think one thing that all of our films address in one way or another, or I don't know, we all kind of question like our relationship to America, and I guess by virtue of that, the American dream. And I think that's like super important, is just to always be super critical of the things that we grew up knowing and that sort of thing, because it's not all there to like help us. And I think all of our films do prompt some level of questioning of like, what does it mean to like live in America? So as long as we're all contributing to a collective consciousness that is critical of problems that need addressing, then we're creating powerful and valuable media, and that's a cool job.
I think for me, I grew up like in different places around the world, so I don't really like to center the American dream in like my works. I think I really like focusing and rooting the story in the community, and so how are we, as immigrants or children of immigrants, really forming new identities here in the U.S. That is not always connected to our parents' struggles of like migrating here. I think I'm really sort of fascinated by like the joy and like the resilience aspects of it, as opposed to like the oppression aspect. That I feel like the American dream is like really kind of the highlight of, because for a lot of us, like our families had to move here because of oppressive governments or whatever was happening back home. But I think that the other side of it is how they persevered here in the U.S. And so I think I really do like to sort of focus and center them as opposed to larger sort of narrative that have, brought us to this moment, I think.
I'm just gonna put a pause right now because we're adding one more fellow to the group. Let's have her, I would love for you to introduce yourself, name your project so the group knows who you are, and I'm gonna get out of this plant. Oh, there we go.
Is this on? Hello, my name is Honestine Paula Fraser, and my project was Come Together. Oh, sorry. The project is based off of the 1978 documentary Oh My Fatasi, which is about a Samoan organization in Carson, California that helps get young people jobs, help them with school, and I wrote my script based off of that documentary.
Sure, I'll go. Does this work? Okay. Yeah, I guess I won't get too political with it. That's hard, but yeah, kind of what Zaynah was saying. A lot of our families had to move because of oppressive governments, and it's interesting because in Hawaii, America is the oppressive government, and my family moved directly into the empire. And I think based on your second question, where does film what role does film play in the American dream? I think it's important that it's cool that all of us decided to use film kind of just to show parts of our culture and trying to be genuine and honest and truthful in our representations of our culture. So as long as we're able to speak our truth, then that's what role film plays in it.
I think in making this film, I really thought deeply about my identity as a Japanese American and someone who was born in America, grew up in a community that I felt like I really had to assimilate into American culture and diminish my Japanese culture. And this film made me really tap into my Japanese side and embrace it and kind of reclaim it. And it was interesting talking to my grandma about what it was like to live during the war as a 7th grader in Japan. And it was really illuminating how she really saw the humanity in Americans despite them being the enemy. And I was very curious in why did you move to America, a place that was the enemy? And I just thought it was really interesting and beautiful of how she saw the humanity in everybody. And through the struggles of living in America, living through all these things, but I think it's, especially during this time, it's important to see the humanity, and also I think it's very timely in what it's like to be a child in war. And she's very lucky to have survived that and to have lived to be almost 100. and that not many people get to, have that privilege. So I know it's not necessarily the question you asked, but this film really made me dive deep into my Japanese and American identity and who I am and what does that mean to me. Do you mind repeating your question for Honestine?
Oh, sure. Sorry. Yeah, so I was asking about the American dream, since it's a theme throughout like the immigrant experience, and I was wondering about what it means to you, especially after working on this project, and how film defines what the American dream is for you.
Yeah, I think my film in particular, I felt very close to because it kind of is about the American dream. The film is about, the original documentary is about Samoan families that come from the island and migrate to America. And this program was there to help them adjust into basically assimilating into the American culture. And when I saw the documentary, I thought it was just really interesting because a lot of my family was in it as well. So seeing kind of like what they experienced during that time was really cool. And to be able to translate it into this film, for me, I think just brought me closer to my family and just closer to understanding, like why they came here and like why they did the things they did and what it's like to mix in Samoan culture with American culture and how that it's just like an interesting experience and like an adjustment. So I wanted to like kind of explore that too.
All right, Gig Powder with LRM Online. Real easy question. What inspired you to become a filmmaker, and what do you aspire to be?
That one's tough, actually. Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted to specialize in. I think I'm interested in everything, and the cool thing about film is like you can make a film about everything, anything that interests you. You can use it as a point of like a starting point to like research, and then kind of like trying to expand and just really understand the subject. What was the second part of that? It was like
what inspired you to be a filmmaker, and what do you aspire to be?
Oh, I talked with Alfred about this. I want to be an uncle. I am an uncle, but like I want to be a cool uncle. I just want I think the cool thing about my family is like it acts as an archive, itself for my family, and I think it's something that like generations to come will be able to look at and be like, oh, cool, my uncle made this, So yeah.
I think for me, I never really saw myself as a filmmaker. It's weird, like we're here promoting our films, but I can never call myself a filmmaker. But I realized that like our families, we just have like a tradition of storytelling, or passing down oral histories. Like I never felt a connection to film or the film industry. Like my whole family worked in hospitals, and I was always like, how do I get in here? Like I don't, like it is not in my blood, it's not in my lineage whatsoever. But until I realized like I live with my grandma, and she's always on the phone in the morning talking to all her friends on like Facebook, and she's always telling stories. Like she's a chismosa, and that's what I'm a chismosa too. And I came to realize like this is what filmmaking is. It's telling stories. It's just it just took new shape. It looks different now. There's new technology, and like how can I harness like generations of storytellers in my family, and like generations and all my ancestors who've told stories and passed them down. Like filmmaking and storytelling is in my blood. It just looks a little different, and it took a while to realize that. And what I love about film, in terms of what I aspire to do with it, is I really want it to be an archive. Like these stories, when it's just passed down orally, it's so ephemeral. It comes and goes, and like when my grandmother's gone, like, and I don't hear those stories at the dining table anymore, like that's it. And so for me, it's like an aggressive way to like hold on to like a moment, to a memory. And I think film is such a beautiful way to be able to preserve that for future generations. In terms of filmmaking, I aspire to be a good ancestor. And for me, I want to use filmmaking as a means to allow like future generations to peek into who they are and where they come from. But, yeah, oh my god.
Okay, I think what inspired me to pursue visual art at large, because I also really like photography and video art. So it was really my family's own archives that put me on to the idea that taking photos is cool. And I used to be at my grandma's house flipping through old family photo albums after I'd walk there after school for like all of middle school. And that was really eye-opening. And then when I got to college and stuff, it opened my eyes to the idea that like you can pursue a creative career, or or pursue visual art. And so with what I aspire as far as filmmaking, I also aspire to do things in like video art and photography as well. And filmmaking was just one medium for me to do that. And at the end of the day, I just want to make art that for my community that helps our collective conscious just reckon with and question our positionality in the world. And also educating everybody else that's not within my community to like see where tomorrow people are coming from.
I never saw myself as a filmmaker. I think first and foremost, I'm a storyteller. And I think that's something that we all have in common, is that we all come from backgrounds where storytelling, especially oral storytelling, is very like prevalent in all of our cultures. But yeah, first and foremost, I'm a writer, and I actually didn't feel inspired to be a filmmaker until I went to, I saw the AWC screening last year where it was the Pacifica cohort, and just seeing those stories being told on film, I was just so inspired by it, and I was like, wow, like, I want to do that too. Like, I want to tell stories like in a different way, in a more creative way. And so I was inspired to apply for this program, and it's been a really cool experience. I think it helped me learn that I do want to go into like filmmaking, and I think I want to aspire to continue to tell more Pacifica stories and bring those stories into the mainstream world.
Yeah, I think like for me, like I grew up in a family of storytellers. Like most evenings, they really look like us sharing stories of each other, and my grandparents sort of reminiscing of their past and bringing out photo albums and all that stuff. But I didn't really grow up around a lot of like archival and moving images, because my history, like my ancestors experienced like one of the largest mass migrations in human history, and so with that like comes a lot of leaving behind of archival content, such as like videos and like photographs. And so growing up, it was mostly just stories and like bits and pieces of photographs here and there. And so I guess filmmaking really sort of inspires me because, like Paula said, I think it's a good way to leave something for your future like descendants, right? Like it sort of really preserves a moment in time and allows us to sort of look back into the lives that our maybe ancestors lived through. And so that's why I'm inspired to be in this space with everyone. And I aspire to be a community storyteller. I really do want to give back to the communities I come from, and continue to really sort of grow and thrive in that environment alongside other fellow creators. And I think there's so much to share with each other, and so really creating this immersive experience where we can all learn and grow with each other.
I think I was inspired to become a filmmaker just through the power of moving images and just visual arts in general. I love watching film because I get transported into a time and place. And my family has a unique history of storytelling in film, and I honestly didn't know about that until more recently, and it's been a privilege to look back at incredible footage my grandparents have taken when they were younger and moving to the US. And so that encourages me more and makes me excited to continue that tradition of storytelling. And I aspire to be a to uplift other stories, and especially stories that are underrepresented and don't usually have the chance to see the light of day. And so I aspire to be someone who to help share those stories, to help come to light, and to also encourage others to share their voice and to be inspired to make films and make images. And I would love to encourage and teach others as well to become storytellers.
Before we get into our group band photo, we have time for one last question to run through the entire group.
Okay, I feel like I just kind of answered this, but hi, my name is Jasmine. I'm from Character Media. Congratulations on your shorts. My question is, like, I guess, why do you guys think, like, this Arm with the Camera Fellowship is so important for younger generation as a whole? Because I feel like a lot of time mainstream society can put art in the back burner.
Okay, so I talked about this a little last night at the Q&A. I'm gonna bring it up again. Okay, let's think about the day armed with a camera for a sec. That's hard, right? Like, armed with a camera. And so I think about how us as young people live in America, and America has a bunch of dealings in other countries and against its own people at times too. Like, what does it mean to actually have a camera and to create media? And ultimately, what is your agenda? Like, how do you want people to feel or take away from what you put out into the world as somebody with a camera? And so this program, and like with VC's great values and that sort of thing, it's like, of course we all made something that, you know, like we're trying to inspire people to create media for our community, or that uplifts our community, or that encourages our community to question problems within it or enforce upon it. And so I think that's what's most cool about being an AWC fellow this year. And kudos to like all the other fellows and stuff, because I think we all acted upon that vision really well. And yeah, so just be mindful of what you put out into the world.
Kind of playing on what Al said, but all of us are really talented. Not even just speak about myself, like my fellows are like super talented, and a lot of us, it's our first film, and we're not given the opportunity to share our stories. So I feel like that's the importance of AWC, is like just giving people a chance to express themselves visually and share their stories. That's like the most important part.
I think for me, I love VC because it's so rooted in archival work, and I love, like, for so long before filmmaking, I was really into archiving and like going through archives, and so I love the intersection between archiving and filmmaking that VC really encourages us to pursue. And I think there is so much greatness and importance in that, you know, like kind of looking at our community stories and really being inspired by that to tell our own stories through film. So yeah, I just love the intersection between archiving and filmmaking that VC offers.
I think this fellowship has been really incredible just by introducing me to an incredible cohort and just some incredible mentors and a whole team that I'm just so blessed to be around and to create with and to bounce ideas off of and to be inspired by. And it's been very transformative, and I'm very, very grateful for them.
I really like this program because I am a little bit older than everyone else, and I've always wanted to get into film, but I never knew where to start, and I thought it was kind of too late for me to do that. And so, like, I went into this complete with, like, I didn't go to film school, I didn't do any of that, and so just like being a part of this program kind of showed me, like, oh, like I can do this, like it's possible, like this is kind of possible for me. And I think that's important for like anybody that wants to get into film and like doesn't know like where to start. I think like a program like this is super important to have, just to show that like you can do it, and yeah, it's possible.
Thank you so. Oh, any more? Oh, so somebody said, go ahead.
Sorry. I didn't have an answer earlier, and then Alf said something that reminded me. I would just want to piggyback off of like the name "Armed with a Camera." It reminds me a lot of like this James Baldwin quote, something along the lines of like "My camera is my weapon." And I think for so many years, like cameras and filmmaking has been used as a weapon against our communities. We've been misrepresented in so many ways. And I think this fellowship is so special because it kind of empowers us, it arms us with a camera to kind of correct like the wrongs that have been made by like over several years in like the film industry. Because I think for so long, I personally have like felt so shut out, like it felt hard to like even feel like I could have like a future career in media. And this whole fellowship, I just felt so held by our fellows, by the staff at BC, by our mentors, and like truly very much like a pivot for me, because coming into it, I was questioning like my ability to continue going. I'm like 24 and I feel like I'm like 70, but it kind of reinvigorated life into me. I'm so inspired by all the fellows here, and inspired by the community that's shown up to support each and every one of us. And so I think that's the most important part about Under the Camera, is to just kind of remind us of our power that we have like already inside of us. They kind of just like pulled it out and reminded us that we have it.
On that note, big round of applause for Under the Camera. I'd like to invite the band to stand and take a pose while Getty and our photographers take a photo of you. Then you'll join Libby to go to the portrait studio.